Our presentation is brought to you by none other than Dr. Megan Amaya. She is the Director for Health Promotion and Wellness within the Office of the Chief Wellness Officer here at The Ohio State University. Her title of her presentation is Spring into Health, where she'll provide you with practical tips and experts' insights on actionable strategies to boost your physical and mental well-being. Without further ado, welcome, Megan.
Thank you, Josh. Hello, everyone. I am so delighted to be with all of you this afternoon and also to be the finale to the webinar series, not to pat myself on the back, but just because I'm going to guess if you know me, you know how passionate I am about health and wellness. So just delighted to be bringing the webinar series to a close. What we're going to be going through over the next 30 minutes definitely relates to spring. We are in the middle of April now. However, this stuff is also going to flow into the summer months. So yes, spring into health. We got a good, hopefully 6 months of nice weather, at least into October. So, and some of this stuff is certainly year round as well, but definitely over the next 5 or 6 months, some tips, strategies, and practices that you can consider in your lives to help have a healthier season overall. And as always, you know that we promote standing and self-care during our presentations. I don't know if I'm standing in the middle of you and lunch. If you want to eat lunch, you are more than welcome to. I can't see any of you because I'm on one laptop here. So eat away, stand up and move around, walk around if you're able to. Whatever you need to do, definitely take care of yourselves for these 30 minutes of wellness. And as I mentioned, self-care is important. All of us recognize this. We have been told these messages, especially over the last 5 years for sure, but absolutely before then. Self-care is absolutely necessary for our own health. And then in order for us to be a better version of ourselves to those around us. You've all heard of the proverbial oxygen mask first. You are unable to pour from an empty cup. We have heard these over and over again. They are still some of my favorite sayings because they are so important for our well-being. And my hope is that every one of us on the webinar knows that Ohio State recognizes 10 dimensions of wellness. We are all in different phases of life, different ages, different things going on. And yes, there are best practices in these 10 dimensions. We're going to go through some of these today. However, you live out these 10 dimensions in your own lives the way you want to, because you might be closer to retirement. You might be in your 20s. You might have little ones at home. You can bring the intensity of these dimensions in your life how you see fit to contribute to your own overall optimal state of well-being. Check out the Student Wellness website for some additional information on these dimensions. Now, with that, we're going to go into what I like to call some low-hanging fruit, things that I'm hoping you all will be more familiar with or have heard of it or maybe are practicing, which is great. As Josh mentioned, chat box, please. I will be asking for input, and because I can't see you, I definitely want you to contribute to the chat box, even if you're saying things like others, that's totally fine. And then also, maybe some newer things or just some stuff you haven't thought about. And we are coming out of the winter months. So if you were thinking about it, it's been a long time from today. We make these behavioral choices every day that influence our health and wellness outcomes. Some of them influence right away, and some of them are much later in life. And so when we talk about, yes, the low-hanging fruit, and then maybe some of the other areas, again, you decide how these play out in your life. And what I also like to say is, I don't want any of you walking out of here and saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I have like 15 things I need to work on. That is not the point of any of our talks and presentations and conversations. There may just be one thing that registers with you, and that's what I want you to walk away with. So if it's one or two, great. I say like no more than like 2 or 3, because if we try to take on too much and change too much, that can also backfire. All right, so let's start with one of those low-hanging fruits, the physical activity and movement. Now, the picture on the right, as I was putting together this slide deck, I was like, oh, this is probably going to conjure up like sneezing for half of you on the call. So it's a beautiful picture. I realize my children have allergies. I have seasonal allergies. It might bring thoughts of, oh, I don't even want to be outside right now, depending on where you live. Hopefully you can see it as a really pretty picture. Tulips are my favorite flowers. Well, we're going to have the lens of being outside when we exercise and have physical activity and movement, although I do want to talk just briefly on fitness as well. I am guessing you all know this. Our bodies are made to move. It helps with circulation. It helps with our metabolism. And I want to put a little caveat on the metabolism. This is the question I like to answer. You do not have to put this one in the chat box. What is the largest muscle on the human body? Some of you have heard me tell you what the largest muscle. People say heart, skin. Skin's not a muscle. It's actually our glutes. And so if we are sitting for long periods of time every day, it's really important to get up and get moving throughout the day. And then that physical activity and exercise, it does help boost our metabolisms, muscles. Now, there are lots of benefits to being outdoors in order to get our movement and our activity and our exercise. What I'd like to hear from you in the chat box, what is one benefit of being outside in nature related to movement and activity? And Josh, this is where I'm going to have you read off some of the answers in there.
I gotcha.
So please just put a word, put two words, things you've heard.
Got sunshine,
What's important about sunshine? You can put that one
fresh
in there.
air, sounds
What
of
was,
nature, fresh air,
yeah, oh, fresh air. Yep.
getting the vitamin D.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
Today,
Yes. What else?
station walks, perfect for mental and physical health.
Beautiful. I'll give it a moment. See if anything else comes in that's different.
Beauty of nature.
Appreciation.
To add on to meditation, taking deep breaths outside.
Yep. Wow. Relaxation. That stuff invokes the parasympathetic for relaxation of the body physically.
Gratitude.
Oh, you all got this. If anything else comes up, Josh, you can go ahead and shout it out here. But I mean, you all are speaking language like improves your mood, lowers our stress. It actually, when you're in nature, the research shows that it helps to lower the cholesterol, invoking that parasympathetic response, the vitamin D. A lot of times we can go outside and get that movement and activity. And because the ground is different than our homes, than the gym, we actually can get a different type of exercise, works the bones and muscles differently, especially if you're on like uneven terrain, for example, taking a walk in the woods or something like that. Can be cost effective. You can go outside and again get a really nice activity break or exercise, and you don't have to go to the gym. Now I know in Ohio we have that challenge of the weather, but it can be a cost-effective way to get exercise and movement. If you're doing it with groups, social, and also the energy, like you were talking about vitamin D and some of the other things, like that helps boost our energy mentally, emotionally, physically. So lots of great benefits of being outdoors. Now, here's the other question I have for you. What is one of your favorite outdoor activities? This is where, as you put this in the chat box, we just get lots of ideas flowing, and it may be something that you're like, oh, I want to try that. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I've done that before. That one really didn't resonate with me. So please put your favorite or one of your favorite outdoor activities. And Josh, what are some of those flowing through?
A lot of gardening, especially upcoming.
Now, yard
walking,
work too.
whether it's around paths or at the metro parks, biking, swimming laps, especially as it gets warmer here, hiking, riding horses. That's an interesting. Nice.
Yeah.
Listening to birds, walking in water, all great ideas.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. All right, I'm going to move on, but please feel free to start putting or keep putting stuff in there because, again, we can all learn from each other. Now, some of you may be familiar with some of the recommendations that I'm going to make, and I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. But when we talk about those everyday movements, the small movements are like, for example, doing things in your chair where maybe you're doing some shoulder rolls. You're welcome to join me, or you do some stretching while you're sitting down. That does get the metabolism and the blood flowing. Large movements is getting up out of your chair, of course, especially if you sit. Now, if you are on your feet all day long, maybe you're in service or a clinician or something like that, it's actually important for you to rest and recover more, sitting down a little bit more. But those stretches are equally important for both people who sit and also people who move more in their jobs. Low to moderate intensity. Oh, I forgot to say with the small movements, about every 30 to 45 minutes. Large movements should be every hour or so. Again, getting the large muscle groups moving. As I mentioned, low to moderate intensity. Some movement is better than no movement throughout the day. The resting and recovery is really important, again, for those of you who are on your feet more. And I wanted to throw this one in here just because we're talking about outdoor. National Park Week is April 19th through the 27th. That's the actual national parks. But I say go to any park around here. My favorite park is High Banks, but High Banks gets so crowded on the weekends. I'm sure some of you are like, oh yeah, we've tried. But just visit any park during this time or multiple parks, and being outside is going to be great. Okay, and I want to spend just a moment on the exercise because we've all heard of the benefits and recommendations of it, but the strength training is super important. And as I mentioned before, you can do this outside. You're strengthening your bones, you're strengthening your muscles, just in a different way, especially if you're on that uneven terrain. I don't know if you know this on a side note, like if you're on the treadmill in the gym, if you can bump up your incline to about a 1.5 or 2, that mimics the outdoors. So don't just stay at that 0, because again, that terrain is different out there and can help us strength train. And of course, you could do strength training anywhere, gyms, homes, etc. Making sure that we're still fitting in that cardiovascular exercise. And we think of the traditional cardio stuff, which is great. Strength training also is cardiovascular. It's just not sustained like doing 30 minutes of a walk or an hour of a walk. Strength training, if you strength train, you know it gets your heart rates up. And then making sure that we include stretching and flexibility in our weekly routines. You can do that as part of your day. I don't always stretch after my exercise session. I'll stretch throughout the day. Maybe you enjoy yoga, etc. So those are still really important. Okay, healthier. And I always say healthier or healthy-ish. That is very purposeful. We are human. We have different needs for eating, and we should have flexibility. We're not perfect. This is not about perfection. This is about just doing a little bit better with our diets every day. So again, IER or ISHR, very purposeful and strategic. As it relates to the spring and summer months, this is what I would love to hear from you. So in the chat box, what is one of your favorite seasonal fruits or veggies? And I say that, you can go ahead and put that in the chat box, because now in today's world, we can get fruits and vegetables like pretty much year round. I tend to buy the ones that are more seasonal though, is because they taste better. Yeah, I might buy some strawberries occasionally in the winter, but I really don't. I do more of the citrus in the winter. So just keeping that seasonal hat on to the best of your ability. Yes, we can buy stuff year round, but is there anything in the chat box, Josh, that you see with the seasonal fruits and veggies for the spring and summer?
Yeah. Peaches, plums, strawberries, watermelon,
Love
tomatoes,
it. Yep.
pomegranates,
Awesome. Yes.
rhubarb, a lot of cherry, tomatoes, zucchini eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
lemons. That's about
Yeah.
it.
Beautiful. Okay. So trying and also trying some things. I just said trying twice. I always say try something. If you don't like it, you never have to have it again. You might end up liking it. So trying something new this summer, that might be a test for you. Hydration is also really important. Now, we could go into a whole thing of how do you know you're properly hydrated? There is one like best practice for hydration, and it involves just you and yourself in a toilet. So make sure that if you want to check your hydration, that's the best way, is looking at your urine and to make sure it's clear, especially as the day goes on. but there's certain other ways that you can check for hydration, certainly. If you are thirsty, or excuse me, yeah, if you feel thirsty, you are probably dehydrated and need to drink something. Now, everyone, how many ounces of fluid should you have? I like to say 64 ounces minimum, because especially in the spring and summer months, the temperature is increasing. We need to have that fairly constant source of beverages. And I use the word beverages on purpose. Water should be the mainstay of it, but certainly there is room for other types of drinks. Just be careful with them. It depends on what you're drinking. But that hydration is really important through the spring and summer months. Here is just a rule of thumb. It is not a hard and fast recommendation. It just gives you something to kind of shoot for. Take your body weight in pounds, and you can do an estimate with it, and divide it in half. That's the number of fluids that you should get minimum on a daily basis. And some days you may be okay with that. And then other days when you're more active, you need more hydration. But again, that could just be a rule of thumb for you. Body weight divided in half. There are different types of foods that are out there, and this gets to what I was talking about in the beginning. This is not about perfection. We have different needs, social, emotional, physical, for our foods. The question I always like to ask is, what is your favorite want food? And you can put it in the chat box. That's where we get a little more fun. What is your favorite want food? Need foods are the foods that our bodies need, vitamins, minerals, the stuff you see in the picture there. But what are the want foods that you enjoy? And they can be totally what we would label as unhealthy, or they can be a little bit in the middle. What do we like? Just a few of them, Josh. What are some of them that come in?
Yep. Here they come. Ice cream, tacos.
Yes.
Brett, I appreciate the mangoes. That goes for both.
Yeah. Love
Apple
mangoes.
pie.
Yes.
Sourdough French toast from South Village
Ooh,
Grill.
that sounds yum.
Sushi.
Yeah.
All great.
Yeah, and there's some want and need in there. That's all good. It's just it's a little bit of a play right there on the want. Ice cream is always one of the first ones, or it's like pizza or something that's really salty. Have space in your nutrition plan for different types of foods, because if you restrict the want foods, it's going to backfire on you. Limiting, though, again, the want foods and the need foods, there is a balance. So we don't want to be 80% want and 20% need. No, we need the need foods because that's what helps fuel our body. So it's more of an 80-20, 20% want foods, 80% need foods. And then you're going to get a balance of, yes, you're going to social, emotional, and then also the physical side of things. So we still need to limit those processed foods and sugary drinks and things like that, but there's definitely room in your diets for them, just not as much as the need foods. A couple other just quick notes. You probably have heard of the eat light, eat often. Snacking goes into that one as well. You determine what eat light and eat often means to you based on your schedule. You may find on days where you're more active or you're outside more, you eat more, and that's fine. That's your body's way of telling you, I need some fuel because I've been doing this and this and this, like yard work or gardening or something like that. But just eating every 2 to 4 hours is what we like to recommend, and that will keep your energy levels up. That should keep you, and also food has water in it, so some hydration, also the stuff that your body needs physiologically. And those snacks are going to be really important. I don't know about any of you, but I am a snacker. I will have sometimes 3 snacks a day. And this is where I would like you, if you don't mind, put in a favorite snack into the chat box so everybody can learn from each other. Different types of snacks that you enjoy, would appreciate that. But those snacks are going to be really important to have as a part of your daily intake, so that you're not getting home or you haven't eaten for 4 or 5 hours and then you just raid the pantry with whatever you can get your hands on. That's not good either. So Josh, is there anything coming in with the snacks?
Yep. Nuts and seeds, pretzels, Cliff Bar, bell pepper with hummus.
Oh, yeah.
Apples and peanut butter popcorn, Greek yogurt, edamame, everywhere in between.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Keep those coming. Again, we can all learn from each other. For the environment, this is what I just wanted to touch on briefly is when we go outside, or excuse me, in the spring and summer months, I don't know about you all, but I like to eat outside a little bit more. It might be on my back patio with my children. We eat out and depending on the weather, a couple times a week. That's totally fine. Of course, there's safety with being outside at picnics and things like that, which we don't get into in this conversation, but you can certainly look up that information online. But you just be aware of those safety with food sitting out for long periods of time. We get to barbecues and social functions, and a lot of those are outside, and those are great. So getting outside and soaking up nature when you are able to with the nutrition, you get those added bonuses that we were talking about earlier with being outside. So that environment can be really beneficial this time of year with our food selections. And I don't know, a lot of you probably like to go out to dinner a little bit more and sit on patios at restaurants and things like that. All right, talking about sleep. I don't know about you, but I am loving the sun coming up at like 6:30 in the morning and going down at like, what is it, 8 or 8:30 right now. I am a summertime person. My whole team knows this. I don't like the wintertime. There are reasons why I stay up in Ohio for right now. I will be southbound at, when my children graduate from high school. And I love it because I'm a morning person too. So, and I, for the most part, sleep pretty well. I have my off nights. I just want to make sure that we are talking about sleep because, again, it's a low hanging fruit, but sleep is foundational to us choosing healthier food, engaging in physical activity, and a whole slew of health conditions. So this might be your walk away, or your item that you walk away with of, oh, you know what, this is something I want to work on a little bit more because throughout the year, the way we sleep and how long we sleep is related to so much of our health outcomes and our behavioral choices. So sleep helps us recover. It helps us feel energized. Think about when you get a good night's sleep. You probably feel like $1,000,000 the next day. And then when you get those nights where you're like, oh, I did not sleep well. I know, like I can feel it in here when I first wake up. It takes me a little while to get going. I tend to crave carbs. I'm a carb person when I don't get enough sleep. Now, one night, yes, but if it does go on for several nights, my diet can get interrupted. And I don't use diet in the sense of the traditional sense. It's my food choices. So I tend to need energy because my body's like, oh, you're sleep deprived. It helps us grow. It helps us repair our brain development. Sleep is so important. And if you look at the research, a lot of us are not getting enough. Also strengthens our immune system with, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, cytokines, cytokines. These help us with our immune system. So if our immune system's not functioning, then it's going to cause those conditions, both acute and chronic. Now, what I'd like to hear from all of you are 1 or 2 sleep tips that you use. Please put those in the chat box. Josh, I'll have you read off a few here in just a moment. And I know that, sleep, we're going to try our best here. Even though I've been saying, no, it's not perfection. It isn't. We get interrupted. I know every night I have to get up and go to the bathroom. I also sleep with one of those cute little creatures that you see on that picture there, who of course interrupts my sleep. And so I try my best. I'm going to have hopefully more good nights than not good nights, but I do try to get close to the 8 hours of sleep. And hopefully most of you know 7 to 9 is the recommendation. So if you're at like a 6, there's your area of opportunity post this talk that you might want to focus on with your sleep habits. So Josh, what's coming in right now on some good sleep tips?
Let's
Okay.
see. Charging a phone in a different room.
We like that one. Yep. Move it away.
Routine. Avoiding coffee, I'm assuming later in the evening.
Caffeine. Yep. Yeah.
Having a sleep mask or some other type of distraction like a fan.
Yep. White noise.
A lot of people, white noise coming in as well. Putting the phone away it's kind of a common theme here.
Yeah. I do have a boundary of 8 o'clock. Now, everyone, don't laugh. I go to sleep by 8:30 because I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm a morning person. I go to the gym early in the morning or I get my exercise in. And so I'm off the phone at 8 o'clock. Now, there's always the exception to the rule occasionally, but really I have a hard boundary for the most part with that one because I got to get that thing. I got to get it away from me.
Other things, just controlling the room, whether it's the temperature,
Yep, temperature.
the darkness, as best as possible, sleeping away from people who snore
Oh, yeah.
as
Well,
well.
that might get a little tricky sometimes, but yes, depending
Yeah, a lot of
on
everything.
who those people are. Yeah. Good, good. I'm going to move on here. We have one more quick topic to cover. And the other night, just on a short note, this is the night I had a restless sleep. Might have been Monday night. I'm pretty sure. And it was hot that night. And then the temperature dropped. Yeah, it was Monday night into Tuesday. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. I actually turned on the air conditioning. And normally I don't have a problem with that, but that temperature of the room can be disruptive to our sleep. Okay, I'm good. Not you all can have access to these slides later. I'm not going to go through that one on purpose. And this is just a sleep cycle. You can take a look at that later. And there's plenty of stuff online, of course. And this is one of my other favorite sayings as we bring this all to a close here is about our mental health. Whole health begins with mental health. I joke that when you are stressed out, when you're feeling anxious, when maybe you have some depressive symptoms, let alone the burnout, are you craving carrots and broccoli? No, you're not. Are you going to go engage in physical activity and exercise? Probably not. If you look at the data, that is quite clear that when we have these mental health challenges, it's going to interrupt the other behaviors. That is, mental health is the foundation to the physical. So we need to build in this recovery. I know you all have heard this stuff. This is why I just want to go through it at a faster pace. And then again, you might find something to potentially work on after we're done here in about 5 minutes. Stress impacts the immune system. It is the number one system that is impacted. I like to throw the question out when I'm with people in person. I said that redundantly, when I'm in person and say, what's the number one system that's affected? And usually people say cardiovascular, that's the second. Immune system is the number one system impacted by stress and mental health challenges. Ages our immune system, increases our risk of acute and chronic illnesses. So lots of challenges. And a lot of that's related to the cortisol in the stress system. I like to say we have healthy and unhealthy stressors. Normally I have you all put it in the chat box. For timing purposes, I'll just give a couple of examples. Healthy would be like weddings and marriages. There's challenges with them, but they're supposed to be healthier. Promotions, children. Unhealthy, our culture tends to focus on, and you could probably rattle off 15 in about 30 seconds. I'm not going to do that. I just want you to remember that there are healthier stressors in our lives, not just the unhealthy ones. So here's a comprehensive list, although it is not totally inclusive. So you may have some other ways that you engage in reducing stress. If you do not see something on here, please put it in the chat box. This is a pretty good capture of everything. Excuse me, although there's, I'm sure, more to add, especially underneath these things. We already talked about movement and exercise, healthier eating, that the food that we put in our bodies can stress out our bodies, like at the cellular level, the cortisol level, which is why it's important that we include those need foods in our diets. The sleep, as we mentioned. I don't know how many of you have ever done progressive relaxation. I like to do this in my classes, and sometimes the students fall asleep. There are tons of guided videos online, YouTube, for example. Progressive relaxations when you tense and release, and you can do full body, you can do different body parts. Deep breathing, I'm sure you all have heard of that one. In as little as 2 minutes, the deep breathing can bring those cortisol levels down. Yoga, Tai Chi, laughter, prayer, gratitude, journaling, meditation, guided imagery, positive self-statements and affirmations, volunteering, hobbies. And hobbies, we could probably list 100 things under there. If you have a certain hobby you'd like to throw into the chat box, we'd love to hear it. Taking time away. I like to say no-ish. Not always easy to say no, but can you have something that, well, I can't take on that whole thing, but could I ask Josh to help with that project? So those little things in your back pocket can be really important. And then discussing, yes, discussing maybe professionally, but also just with a trusted confidant in your life. Josh, is there anything to add to this slide before we bring it to a close here?
Reading, massage.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm?
I'm kind of reading through this, enjoying
Yeah,
puzzles, especially in the winter months.
hobbies, yeah.
Those are what's coming in right now.
Yeah, good, perfect. Well, keep reading, keep Keep adding. All right. So just to bring this to a close here, we talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to healthy behaviors. Again, I don't want you walking away thinking you have like 15 things to work on. One, two, setting realistic goals is really important. We don't want to try to change everything at once. Small, achievable goals. You probably have all heard of the SMART goal. That's a great way to set goals. You don't have to adhere to the SMART goals. You can do goals however you really want, whatever's going to resonate with you. The fun, the play time is really important. There's quite a bit of literature on fun and play in your activities, especially activities that are going to fit into your lifestyle. Being consistent, so building those routines into habits is going to be really important. We could talk for like hours on that one. And then support, family, friends, professional. I don't mean professional, just mental health. It could be a personal trainer, it could be a dietitian. So that support can be really important if you have the means for that. And then to finally bring it to ways to renew and find joy in everyday life, creating time for what you are passionate about, looking for that meaning in everyday life, getting out in nature, for example, being mindful, not mindful in the present moment, being kind to yourself and others, work on healing the past and forgiving, being yourself, choosing that authenticity, connecting with nature and family and friends, and associating with supportive, positive people, which may mean that you need to draw some boundaries in your life. And that is totally fine. Those positive, supportive people are going to help you on that journey. I know this was a lot, but hopefully you got a little nugget or two in there. With that, I am done. You are welcome to reach out to myself or Josh or, anyone on the Buckeye Wellness team.